Hello and welcome to my channel. It's the Network Specialist. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so that you know each and every time I upload a video. Everything I will discuss in this video is alleged and in my very own opinion, used for entertainment purposes only. Today, I will be doing a recap of Heart and Hustle Houston, Season 1, Episode 3, Very Cutesy, Very Demure. Now let's get into it. We are going to have an open dialogue about some topics. And I think watching these reality TV shows, the most you can get out of it is to kind of see other people's perspective on different topics. So that's kind of like what we're going to be doing today, because sometimes when you hear other people's perspectives, it kind of open up your mind, to different ideas, when it comes to different topics. So the first thing I want to start with is what Elena said about Josh, the fact that Josh wouldn't be caught dead with Chloe. Now, here's the thing. Saying someone's husband is not fine or attractive is very rude and unnecessary. And anybody with any sense would know that. Sometimes people just speak without thinking about what they're going to say, and it comes off as being very rude. Okay. So you can't get mad, you know, when somebody claps back, whether, it's in your face or behind your back. Because at the end of the day, anybody who has compassion or just common sense would know that it's rude to say that about anybody's partner, because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, and what's fine to you may not be fine to somebody else, and vice versa. So let me just say that. Now, do you guys think that it's okay to make that type of statement? She was very offended when, Alana clapped back and said that, her husband wouldn't be caught dead dating her. She was very offended by that, but she didn't stop to think that her statement might have been offensive to Elena. So I'm just going to say that. And whether you're catching the replay or whatever the case may be, you can drop down in the comments and elaborate on that question as well. So, and before I end that conversation, I'm going to also say this. When you say, something like that, sometimes depending on who you're dealing with, words like that could be like fighting words. Like, sometimes when you don't know people, you have to be very careful about the things you say. You might feel comfortable saying things with, a group of ladies that you guys hang out all the time. But, if you're in a new setting, words like that can be fighting words. And I'm just going to say that because, don't be shocked if you find yourself in an altercation, saying things like that. So Labrina shut down her spa escape for the day to invite some of the girls over for an exclusive wellness experience. And she invited everybody but Elena and Chloe because she didn't want that energy in her relaxing setting, and I don't blame her. Sometimes you have to leave people out when they got drama going on, just so that they don't spoil the fun for all of the ladies. Okay. So they were the only two that she didn't invite. Now, the next thing I want to speak on and have some dialogue on is the tension between Manera and Latoria. And I honestly can relate when Manera, you know, where she's coming from, because I've been there, done that. Okay. I got the same thing my entire life. Like, people will always, tease me about my size and everything like that. And I get it. Like, people who struggle with their weight, they always thought it was okay to mock me for being so small because most of my life, my weight fluctuated between 88 and 96 pounds. So, I got a lot of jokes about how small I was. But when I would tell people that I don't really want to be this small. I'm actually trying to gain weight. Like they thought that was so funny. But sometimes people who are small and want to gain weight, they have the same struggles as people who are large and want to lose weight. It's also a struggle for somebody who wants to gain weight and can't gain weight. So I totally get it. And with that being said, when it comes to um, Latoria always making comments about the fact that Manira looks young. Again, I got that too. Now, when you're a full grown woman, cute is not a compliment, okay? Like you're a full grown woman, you do not want to be cute. Kids are cute, but when you're a full grown woman, that's not a compliment. So, you know, depending on who you ask, some people might not think it's a big deal, but if you've gotten that your entire life, it might be a trigger for you. So I'm going to say that. But in Latoria's defense, Manira was the first person that brought up the word cute, but she was referring to her clothes and how she was dressed that day. But she still brought up the word cute first. And then that's when Latoria just followed up, you know, and said cutesy. So when Latoria added cutesy onto it, she didn't like it. So, I just had to say that in Latoria's defense. So moving along. Labrina's spa is everything. Okay. It's classy. Give me 1 second, guys. Somebody's at the door. I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. My lunch was being delivered. Okay. So, yes, back to Labrina's spa. So, it's so good to see, Black businesses doing so well and just people, doing well and being successful. So, shout out to Labrina and her husband for everything they got going on, their beautiful home, their beautiful business. They really got it going on. I'm just going to say that. Now, this question is for the ladies, okay? So you can answer it now or you can drop down in the comments after the fact. So the question is, would you have reached out if you were Latoria? Would you have reached out to that guy that she ran into at the rodeo to ask him out for drinks? That's the question. So, as for myself, more than likely, I probably would not have done that only because, and let me be very clear. Um, I had a situation recently where, I was hanging out with some associates, nobody that I would call friend, just some associates or whatever the case may be. And it was me, a gentleman, and another young lady. So I guess she was feeling this guy. We were all at this location for the same reason, whatever the case may be, but we didn't know each other before we actually hung out at a bar. So she pulled me to the side and she asked me if I like the gentleman. Now, mind you, I had just met this guy like maybe an hour before, just sitting there at the bar. I had just met him. So I told her, like, look, I just met this guy. And, I was just like, he's fair game. Like, if you're feeling this guy, and they were actually going to be riding together on their way home. I'm like, go for it. And I think she felt some kind of way because I also told her that, look, I don't pursue guys. That's just what it is. I don't pursue guys. And I'll say this sometimes, like in, hey, Mama Bees, thank you so much for being here. In Latoria's case, sometimes when you pursue guys, they might just, go along just because they don't want to be rude or they don't want to hurt your feelings or whatever the case may be. But you really might not be their type. So they might go along with the program thinking in the back of their mind that I'm just not into her, but she's a nice enough person. And I don't want to be rude and say, no, I don't want to go have drinks with you. So you might always have in the back of your mind, now, does he really like me or did he just settle because I initiated the contact? So you have to be careful. I'm not saying in this day and time, some females are very aggressive. They ask guys out on dates. If that's your thing, do your thing. But as for myself, I don't really pursue guys like that because when a guy approaches you and he pursues you, you get the right to feel like without a shadow of a doubt that this guy is into you because this guy made an effort. And when I say pursue, that doesn't mean like one conversation. That means multiple conversations. So you get to say, like, this guy is really feeling me. This guy is really digging me because this guy pursued me. But when you initiate the contact, then more than likely you might have this thing in the back of your head like, is he really into me? And you might can't tell. So just be careful when you want to be aggressive and you want to be pursuing guys. Just think about that. Okay. So I get it. Her friend pushed her up to do it. She did it. Hey, Cece, thank you so much for being here. And that's totally fine if that's your thing. But again, you know I don't pursue guys. And a lot of times, call me green, but a lot of times I don't even realize when guys are pursuing me initially because I just assume that they're being nice because I'm a nice person. And, I might just think that they're being nice. And then sometimes people have to point it out to me, like, you don't see what's going on here? Like, he's really digging you, like, he's really feeling you. And and I'd be like, oh, for real? Okay. But yes. So yeah, you have to be careful with that sometimes. So at some point I might be like, okay, he's still around. He's still, this is like the third time he done asked me out. Maybe I should go on a date with this guy. Now let's talk about um the fact that Ro had a problem with Latoria not wanting to share things about, sex. And I respect any woman's decision or reservations about talking about sex or whether or not they indulge in toys. Point blank and period. I will not judge anybody either way, whether you feel open enough to talk about, your sexual escapades or not. I'm not going to judge you because, you know, that's your business. And, the person who is free to talk about those things, they shouldn't feel like they can't be their self, if someone else chooses not to share things, that they perceive as private. So whether you talk about it or whether you don't, I'm not going to look at you any kind of way and I'm not going to change who I am or, my thoughts on it just because you don't want to share. Some people are very open when it comes to talking about things of that nature. Um, and I'll say this. as for myself, I'm open-minded. Now, do I want to share like my, intimate moments with people? No. But if other people want to share, fine. But, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be that open about what's going on in my bedroom, but I'm not going to judge you if that's what you like to do. Either way, it's not that serious. The crawfish pool party was a vibe. The whole setup was really nice. The food looked like it was so good. It almost makes me want to do a crawfish party. Now, they didn't only have crawfish, it looks like they had crabs, shrimps, the whole works. Because if you have tried crawfish or you eat crawfish on a regular basis, to me, crawfish is just like they don't fill you up. So you need other things to go along with the crawfish to feel full. So to me, it's just like something you eat when you're hanging out, you want to just have conversations or whatever the case may be, but it's not nothing to have for dinner because you're not going to get full. Um, I was introduced to crawfish by an ex coworker of mine. We actually went somewhere and had crawfish on a lunch break. Now, typically, I wouldn't want to do that because I wouldn't want to continue my day smelling like crabs, but or any type of seafood. But I was glad for the experience because after that, I started eating crawfish, here and there, not too often. I probably have only had crawfish maybe 5 times in my whole entire life. But sometimes, since having them that one time, I do crave crawfish sometimes. So they're interesting. You just have to know how to eat them. So make sure if you're going to have them, somebody teaches you how to eat them. Okay. So when Chloe got there with her YN, I think that's what these young people call a young nigga. They call him a YN. So when Chloe got there with her YN, most of the ladies thought that he was fine. Okay. Um, the only person that didn't really say how she felt was Labrina, because to me, he was just the typical looking guy. There was nothing like special about him. He had a nice body. He's tall, dark, whatever the case may be. He was a decent enough guy, especially because Chloe is like 17 years older. So, I think that they're a pretty decent match given the optics. Now, I also feel like this when it comes to dating older or dating younger, everyone has the right to their preference. But with that being said, if you are 18 dating a 65-year-old man, people will give you the side eye because that's just gross, okay? But again, it's not against the law, you know. And I'm going to say that because I typically am attracted to older men, so I wouldn't want nobody judging me. Obviously, I'm a full grown woman, so if I date somebody 10, 20 years older than me, I don't think it's going to be a really big deal. So, that's how I look at that. As long as you're age appropriate, it's really not that serious, because you can find companionship in anybody of any age as long as it makes sense. Okay. But when it comes to a situation like what's her name? Russell Simmons' ex, her daughter, Arayo or whatever. Oh, Aoki, she was flirting around with this 65-year-old man and that went viral because that's just gross. Okay. So as long as you're a full grown adult, people have to respect your preference. Hey, Real Talk with Grace and Mercy. Thank you so much for being here. And Mama B said, I personally didn't think there was anything special about him. Okay, so Mama B's, you agree with me. He was a decent enough guy. And given the fact that she's 17 years older, I mean, it is what it is. I think they look okay together. He's definitely a full grown man, even though he's a few years maybe older or younger than her son. but at the end of the day, he's a full grown man. And I also say this because y'all already know all of my sons are in their 30s, 33, 34, 36. So, yes, if I dated somebody their age, yes, they'll probably give me the side eye. But if that's what I choose to do, then that's my business because, at the end of the day, that's still a full grown man. I wouldn't do that, but I'm just keeping it real because just like I'm attracted to older men, I don't want nobody judging me. So, to each his own. So, guys, as you all know, I've been on a 2-week break. So, obviously, I got to get caught up, with my content. So, y'all might be a little bit ahead of me, and that's perfectly okay. And I did tell you guys yesterday that, um, I really do like recapping the shows, but the way that my life is set up, I'm probably going to be doing more of, celebrity news, gossip, whatever the case may be, than recapping shows just because when you get behind, now you have to kind of play catch up and your audience has already seen the upcoming, episode. So I'm going to still recap reality TV, because um, I know that the Braxtons is coming back. I don't know when. I know they're coming back. So I'm definitely going to recap that. And at some point, The Real Housewives of Atlanta is going to come back. And those are some of my favorite shows. So obviously, I'm going to still recap them. But when it comes to other shows that, new shows that might come along, I'll just have to make a decision when that time comes, just because, again, I have, when it comes to my priorities, my YouTube channel, unfortunately, is like fourth on the list. Okay. So I have to say that. And before I get out of here, and Mama B says, sidebar, are you all watching the US Open? I'm not, Mama B's. Are you going to be watching it? So guys, um, I had an amazing, amazing time at the beach, like life changing, great time. Can't wait to do it again. And y'all know my birthday coming up. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for my birthday. More than likely, I'm not going to do anything too big because, once you reach 50, like, I don't know. You just don't make, well, me personally, I don't really feel the need to make a big deal about my birthday. And some people might think because I'm turning 55, maybe that should be a big deal. But I look at 55 like it's close to 60. So, no. So, yes, but I'm going to start thinking about it really soon to just narrow some things down because I'm a planner. So, if I'm even going to do anything, it's time to start planning. So, I will start planning my birthday soon. But that's pretty much it for this recap of Heart and Hustle, season 1, episode 3. And tomorrow I will be doing a recap of King's Court. King's Court. And let me just say this. I really like both of these shows because with Heart and Hustle as well as King's Court, these are some mature group of people. Like when it comes to the men on King's Court, I mean, obviously we can't say that about the ladies because anytime you get a group of ladies together, it's going to be petty and you're going to see women acting childish. But I'm mostly speaking about the men. This is a very mature group of men. I like the way that, they're choosing these ladies. I like the way that they're deciding how they're going to let them go. So I think this is a very mature group of men, unlike the Love Island types, whatever the case may be. I like the aesthetics of, this show, King's Court. And Mama B says, I love tennis. There was an incident with the black tennis player Taylor Townsend and a white tennis player that she beat. Really? I'm gonna have to look that up. Um, I like tennis as well. I haven't really watched it like, you would watch basketball or football. Basketball is my favorite. So, guys, I am going to end this live on that note. If you did not like the video on your way in, please like the video on your way out. And if you just happen to be catching the replay, please like the video and drop down in the comments so that we can keep this conversation going. Thank you guys for watching, and bye for now.